time left, so let's just see how this goes. Because the true self is eternally perfect, awareness, love, bliss, and eternally free of all suffering, some people think there is no need for spiritual practice. Because the true self is eternally perfect, some people think there is no need for spiritual practice. Such a notion is an ego preservation strategy. The purpose of practice is not to gain the true self. The purpose of practice is to remove the illusion of a body, a world, suffering, etc., so that what remains is only the eternal experience of the true self. In other words, those who have let the ego trick them into thinking there is no need for spiritual practice because the true self is eternally free of suffering, etc., are still having the experience of suffering, a body, a world, etc. Thus, their experience is not consistent with their concept that the true self is eternally free of suffering and perfectly blissful. This is an example of intellectual spirituality. This is an example of people confusing a journey through concepts, ideas, beliefs, and opinions with an authentic spiritual journey. Practice leads to the direct experience of infinite, eternal awareness, love, bliss, or as Kathy called it earlier, the absolute. A journey through spiritual concepts, ideas, beliefs, teachings, and opinions is a journey through illusion. Practice is what is essential. It must not be a spiritual practice that is created by the ego for the purpose of preserving the ego. With awareness, watching, awareness method, the practice is progress. I just want to read that sentence again. With the awareness, watching, awareness method, the practice is progress. What this sentence means, and in fact, George tonight was a great example of this. What this sentence means is if you are setting down and practicing awareness, watching awareness, progress is happening. You do not have to be aware of it. If you are not setting down and practicing awareness, watching awareness, then that same type of progress that would occur, it doesn't mean other types aren't occurring, but that same type of progress that would occur in awareness, watching awareness meditation is not happening because you are not sitting down and closing your eyes, right? So you don't have to look for evidence of progress. You can know that if you are practicing awareness, watching awareness, progress is happening. So with awareness, watching awareness method, the practice is the progress. The habit has been developed of always looking outward towards the seen. The awareness, watching awareness method reverses this. Every time a thought arises or the tendency to look outward, the attention is taken away from the thought and turned towards the seer. So we're reversing the habit of looking out towards illusion and learning the habit of looking in towards the truth. And the practice of doing that is the progress of reversing the habit. Thus, with the awareness, watching awareness method, a new habit is developed and the practice is the progress. Now this gets to what Tony asked earlier. This is paragraph 90. A question might arise. Why does the awareness, watching awareness method focus attention on one's ordinary, everyday background of awareness, instead of attempting to look for infinite awareness. Here is an example that can answer this question. Imagine that you live in a mansion that has thousands of dark rooms, and you are trying to find the sunlight. If you focus your attention on a beam of sunlight that enters one of the rooms, and follow that beam and trace its origin, you can find the source of that light, the sun. However, if you hold the concept of the sun and ignore the beam of sunlight that enters some of the rooms, you could open 1,000 doors in dark rooms and never find the sun. In this example, the sun represents infinite awareness, which is the true self. The beam of sunlight represents your ordinary, everyday consciousness. If people hold some concept of infinite awareness and try to find it, they will never find it. Your own everyday background of awareness is the path to infinite awareness, as sunlight is to the sun. So, we close our eyes and we focus on just our everyday human awareness. As we focus on our everyday human awareness, and we get better and better at the habit of focusing on our everyday human awareness instead of looking out towards thought in the world, right? This everyday human awareness is just like a sunbeam. It's not the sun itself. But as we do this, we are unknowingly to ourselves, right? The practice is the progress. We are following that sunbeam, that ordinary human awareness, back, until at some point, as I mentioned, you fall through a back door that's back there, an open back door, and you awaken to infinite awareness. We can't focus on infinite awareness because we haven't yet awakened to it. If you were asked to focus on infinite awareness, you'd be asked to do something you cannot do. But you can focus on your everyday awareness, just human awareness. And that awareness is the sunbeam that leads to the sun. So Tony, I hope that answers your question. He says, another example. Clearly. Okay, good, Tony. I'm glad. I figured this would. He says, another example. Imagine a planet where all of the people were born and raised and spent their entire lives in a movie theater. Almost all of them believed the movie they were seeing on the screen was real. Their attention was so fixed on the screen that they never bothered to turn their heads around 180 degrees to see the projector's light. One of them had the courage to turn his head around 180 degrees, and he saw the projector's light. He did not know what it was, but he followed that light until he found the projector. He went back and told the people that what they were seeing on the screen was not real. He told them that to find the projector, they would have to turn their heads around 180 degrees. But due to the long habit of always keeping their attention fixed on the movie screen, fear of the unknown, their belief that the movie was real, and their disbelief in what he was telling them, very few bothered to turn their heads around 180 degrees to see the light from the projector. I love this list of reasons why they didn't do it. Listen to this list of reasons. One is that their attention was fixed on the movie screen. So their attention is just fixed on what's going on out there, or even our thoughts, right? Another reason was fear of the unknown. Another reason was just their belief that the movie was real. And then another reason was their disbelief that what he was telling them was true, right? This disbelief in this awakening. These are 4 reasons why people wouldn't do it. And I bet we can find these reasons in us if we aren't doing it, right? He said some of those who did follow his instructions turned their heads immediately back to the screen. Like they looked, but then they went right back to the screen. They were used to the illusion and afraid of the truth. Others did not sustain their attempt to find the projector long enough to find it. Others did not sustain their attempt to find the projector long enough to find it. That's an important line too to me. We have to be willing to do this until awakening happens. After all, it is difficult to find a projector in the dark. One has to pass through a number of doors to find it. Once in a while, someone actually persevered long enough to find the projector. And it's funny because another story that comes to mind when I read this is in the Bible. Jesus told a story about the farmer who threw the seeds. Some fell on the path, some fell among the thorns, and then some fell on good soil, right? So the good soil will be the ones who persevere long enough to find their way all the way to infinite awareness. That would be the good soil. He says, if you are in a dark room, spiritual practice is like opening the drapes or curtains. If a person says the sun is there, therefore there is no need to open the drapes, that person will always live in darkness. So it is with those who say there is no need for spiritual practice. There was a spiritual teacher who for more than 50 years gave talks around the world. He said there is no need for practice. He said any movement of the me center or the ego helps to perpetuate the me center. That might sound logical, however, what are the actual results? I know who he's talking about, and this is true, so listen to this. Towards the end of his life, it was this teacher's view that none of the people who had attended his talks or read his books had succeeded in ending the me center or the ego. Even though he told everyone not to practice, he felt that no one awakened through his advice. And Michael goes on to say, practice is essential. Talking you out of spiritual practice is an ego preservation strategy. There is another way to understand the need for practice. Most of the people of the world are not doing any spiritual practice. They are also not being liberated from this no practice. Thus, it is essential to find a practice that is effective. So I wanted to read that for two reasons. One was the emphasis on the importance of practice, but the other was really especially the mansion story and the theater story. The mansion story explaining why we're practicing awareness, watching awareness. That is the sunbeam that leads to the light. The theater story to explain why we need to persevere long enough to find infinite awareness. Because if we don't, we can turn around and look for a little while, but if we stop and turn back around and look at the movie again, we're really just giving up the search. So we want to understand the simplicity of the search, focusing on awareness, and even though nothing may appear to be happening, we want to understand the practice itself is progress, and we want to persevere until we awaken to that infinite awareness. And I'm certain when we awaken to infinite awareness, we will know it. Right? I don't think we'll question that. And until then, we keep practicing. So that concludes my sharing for the day.